Welcome to Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. This is a second part in a two-part series about international visitors coming to the land of enchantment, coming right here to Albuquerque through Global Ties ABQ. It's an international exchange program where emerging leaders from across the world come to the United States, basically first to DC and then throughout the United States, and oftentimes right here to Albuquerque to learn from our leaders, to learn from our business people, best practices, what they can take back to their home countries. And also the people who are meeting with them here in Albuquerque are learning quite a bit about their other countries as well. So it's the whole mission of Global Ties ABQ is world peace. And of course, that's good for all of us. So please stay with us as we discuss more anecdotes and more visitors and more exciting things about other countries, about other countrymen who come right here to Albuquerque. You may see them and you may be part of the program as well. Stay with us as we discuss Global Ties ABQ right after this. Perhaps when you were a student, you went on an international exchange. Maybe you had a foreign exchange student come to your school. I think most of us in the United States have had that experience. And when you think back, that was years ago, and my guest had me thinking back about all the different exchange programs I was involved in. Well, we can now become involved in Global Ties ABQ, and I think you may want to pay just $60 to become a member because it sounds really exciting. Melora Palmer has been the executive director for 2 years. Welcome back to the program, Melora. But she's just been with ABQ as Global Ties ABQ as executive director for 2 years, but has been a volunteer and part of the program for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How has this affected your life?
Well, so to give you a little bit of a history, I was actually an alma mater of UNM. Went to university here, and then I left the country for 25 years.
So you're a UNM graduate and had to get out of the country after that one?
I first went to Denver, then I went to Canada, then I went to France, then to Haiti and Cote d'Ivoire, and came back in 2017 to put my then teenage daughter in high school here. She's since graduated, moved on, and just graduated from college last weekend.
Congratulations.
And she's going into foreign service. She wants to be a diplomat. Surprise, surprise.
But you traveled around the world, but you decided to come back here for your daughter's sake to go to school here.
Yeah. I really wanted her to, she's actually Haitian, and I really wanted her to experience the American school system. I know we really have lots of worries about our system right now, but if you compare it to, especially to the French system, which is wonderful and very comprehensive, it also is very closed. I mean, what you're going to do as an adult is pretty limited. You're going to be a doctor, lawyer, etc.
They decide at an early age that.
Yes, they have to declare in high school because university is paid all the way through. So they have to determine, it's a big thing their last year in high school. It's called the BAC. You take this huge exam that determines what are you going to do when you go to college. So you have to already have determined what your diploma is, what your degree is before you go to college. So in some ways it's a great system, and they learn, they're learning geography at age, 3rd grade, etc., and a second language by 3rd grade.
Which she did when she was in the Haitian program, which is French.
She did. She now speaks 4 languages, learning a 5th. Yeah, I'm a proud mom.
What language?
Her native language is Creole, 2nd language is French, 3rd language is English, and 4th language is Spanish. She is fluent in all of them, accents and everything, and now she's learning Arabic. Why Arabic? I don't know.
Where did she go to college?
She went to Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale, small college, but she loved it and she got herself through it, and now she's taking a break, and then she's gonna start working, she hopes, and then go to grad school eventually.
But you lived abroad, you lived around the world.
Yeah, so we lived abroad around the world, and then when I came back here, it was a friend who also was a member of Global Ties and told me about it, and that as a member, as these groups, as we call delegations, come into town, they're usually here for 3 or 4 days, and if they're here for an evening, we try to set up what's called home hosting dinners. And so I usually got the French-speaking ones because I speak French, and so I'd have a group from Mali, Togo,
Now, these are in Africa?
Yes.
Mali,
Yeah,
Togo, okay.
working with child trafficking, and here they are in your home talking about their lives and what they're doing to improve their communities, and you're just sitting down sharing dinner with them in your backyard, on your patio, or wherever. So it just was a really wonderful experience. So that's how I got involved with Global Ties. And then about a year after that, they asked me to be on the board. I came onto the board. And then they asked me to be vice president, and I said, okay, I'll be vice president. And then the president had to resign, and I took over as president of the board in 2022. And then we had, the organization went through a big shift. We were looking to try and merge with another organization, and that didn't, in theory it was to be perfect, but in reality it didn't work. And so we lost a lot of the staff, and they asked me if I wanted to step in. And I said, okay.
As an executive director, oh wow.
But in the end, it's been really, really wonderful. It really allows me to have a sense of achievement and accomplishment, a sense of impact, maybe big fish in a little pond, but it's just been really super rewarding. Not only to meet these people, but to realize that by creating these professional exchanges, you are affecting what's happening in the world. And to give you an example, usually we have a national conference every year in Washington with all of the community-based members, of which I am part of this network. And usually a representative of the State Department comes, sometimes it's the secretary themselves. And we'll tell it, and we had Anthony Blinken, and he says, if we go into a country to do diplomacy, the first place we're gonna look is the alumni to this program. Because they're gonna be influencers in their country, because they're usually relatively highly placed. They can be in, many of them, the people that come are in ministries and in high-level positions.
So when they go to another country, they're going to look at the people who,
Yes.
foreigners, is that a correct term?
Yes.
Who have come to the United States through Global Ties.
Through the International Visitor Leadership Program that we host. Yes.
To look to them
Yes.
as a contact
Yes.
in those countries.
Yes. And, you know,
Wow,
every
that's
year they have these
remarkable.
impact awards where some of the alumni come and talk about what they developed once they left the U.S. and they saw what we're doing here. There's a gentleman, he works, he's in which country? Is it Cameroon? He did not come to Albuquerque, but he came to the U.S. under this program somewhere in West Africa, and he was working with disadvantaged youth. And through what he learned coming here to the United States, he has been able to just move mountains and really progress the enterprise and ideas that he was doing already in Africa. And I had another group come through. They were what we have single country and multi-country. This was about, I think, 12 people from different countries. And again, they were on youth and community engagement. And we had them meet.
Which means they want to come back, learn how we're engaging our youth here in the United States.
Exactly.
And how we're engaging them and working with them and bringing these ideas back to their youth.
So one of the groups we had to meet with is 505 Warehouse, which is an amazing group. And they work predominantly, I think it's kids coming out of high school into college, oftentimes disadvantaged, have not succeeded that well in the normal school system, and sort of training them on alternative careers. So it can be art, it can be, they have a DJ class, it's amazing. So this gentleman who was from Ghana worked with one of the ministries. After he left, he wrote back to us and said, what I learned from that group there, I am going to repeat in my ministry in education in my country.
Fantastic.
And that's just like, wow. You know, you really do realize that you are having impact. And
that won't be Warehouse 505. They'll have to be their area code.
Yes.
How wonderful. Is there a follow-up program usually? Is there a follow-up to find out what successes they were able to bring home? Is there?
There is, at more of a national level, although since I've taken over as executive director, I am really trying to create our database. So any of the participants that come here to Albuquerque, they automatically get on our mailing list, they automatically get our newsletter, they automatically know what we're doing. And I've had, I'd say maybe a half a dozen reach out to us since to say thank you, or even try to create business contacts, etc. And also of our members, either through the dinners or other types of event we try to organize when the visitors are here. I have one member, Natasha, she's probably gone to visit 3 or 4 of the people she hosted in her home for dinner She's been to Costa. Where did she go? She went to Georgia, the country, Croatia. I'm trying to remember. She's like,
And she just had them over for dinner.
yeah, made
And
friends.
then went to their countries
and
to
then went
visit
their countries.
them.
And I've gone to visit a woman I hosted from Serbia. Of course, there's a couple. There's one in Paris that I go see when I go back there. That I stay in touch with her. It was also with the White Tilly, and she was launching. She's basically a film producer, and it just was hitting walls and walls because being a young woman film producer in France is still not very easy for her. She came here and she's booming. She has so many contacts through Albuquerque and Los Angeles, etc., because of her trip here. And so I see her every time I go to Paris. We get together and talk about what she's doing.
What would you say is one of the bigger, I mean, you explained about Warehouse 505 or 505 Warehouse. What other successes have you heard about?
Well, I already talked about the one with Miriam from Armenia. There's also the young man from North Macedonia that has this an agreement with Sandia Labs to provide basically solar mirrors to them. Off the top of my head, there's so many, like this group of Saudis that I had. You know, they learned so much, and they're already staying in touch with many of the people they met with to kind of follow up on initiatives that were instigated through their various meetings.
Have quite a few other programs starting up this year in 2025. Yes. What other groups are coming?
So this Friday, I have a group coming in on integrated fire management from Brazil.
Integrated
fire management.
Fire management.
So it's basically how do we deal with forest fires? Because as you know, forest fires unfortunately are becoming more prominent across the world. And here in New Mexico, we've had quite a few major fires, forest fires. And so they're coming to learn about how do we deal with that, and not just dealing with the fire, but how do you deal with communities? How do you deal with the aftermath? All that. So they're going to be here for about 5 days.
There's a wealth of information about that. So what types of groups have you set them up with?
I think the BLM, I don't have that list with me because that's my program officer. Yes, so, and basically the Forest Service here, etc. Then we have another group coming in for 1 day from Africa on extractive industries. And
that's kind of like our oil and gas and coal and such, which we are big here in New Mexico.
And then I have another group.
And they're from where?
African countries. There's
and they have a lot of extractive as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the place to learn about that.
And then I have another one coming on in youth and community engagement. So we'll use a lot of the same actors that we have in the past. One coming in on coercive violence against women next month. We just had one come through. Well, I have another one. It's another program, but it's the same idea. It's funded by the Congress, coming from Ukraine, on cultural heritage theft.
Cultural heritage theft?
Yeah, because obviously that's happening in Ukraine right now.
With the war going on.
And New Mexico, obviously we have 19 tribal nations here, so you have a lot of expertise when it comes to artifact. Not just theft, but conservation, preservation, documentation. So they're going to be meeting they're going to go to Petroglyph National Forest, they're going to go to Acoma and speak with them and how they've dealt with artifact theft. They'll be dealing with, I just learned this, I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if she wants a plug, but did you know that one of the most prominent cultural heritage lawyers in the country is based here in New Mexico? She was on the President's Commission for Cultural Heritage Law.
And preservation?
And preservation. So she's going to meet with them. So,
oh my.
Yeah. This is a group coming in from Ukraine, all pretty highly placed. Looking to how do we protect our country.
And they're coming to New Mexico, to Albuquerque for this.
Yeah.
As you mentioned in our last program, Melora, that prior to becoming the executive director, you weren't as familiar, and I'm not as well, about how much expertise we have in this city. As you mentioned, of course, the extractive industries we know only because much of our state budget is coming from the oil and gas industry, and of course they have to extract it, but we did not realize that historical preservation, an expert was living right in our midst.
Yes, and that's what's been so fun, is no matter what the subject, it can be human trafficking, things like that, unfortunately.
There are experts here.
There are experts.
Of course,
that are
well,
able-
I shouldn't be surprised because we hear all the
Yeah.
time in the news them coming up through
Right.
our borders, the human
Right.
traffickers. So we hear that, but you have found,
Yes.
as the executive directors for
Yeah.
Global Ties ABQ, you need to find the expertise to be able to present to these other countries who are interested in learning the best practices, and then you find
Right.
out, yeah, we have it right here.
or water resource management, things like that. I mean, we have wonderful expertise.
Mainly at Sandia, or where do we find?
Water
Water-
resource management would be, we have a lot of water groups. You have the Rio Grande Conservancy, even the Albuquerque Water Department. You know, Albuquerque's done a pretty good job with our water and managing our water. Not necessarily the state, but Albuquerque themselves has done a pretty good job.
Well, such a precious
Yes.
commodity we need to
Especially for
preserve
us,
it
yeah.
in the desert. So I understand well, this is years ago, having worked for Governor Gary Johnson, Israelis, of course, in their desert climate, knew how to conserve the water or preserve
Right.
the water.
Yeah.
And I think we've learned in that exchange from
Right.
them.
Yeah.
But now they're coming to learn from us about
Yeah.
conserving water. Fantastic. What other topics would surprise our
I'm trying
audience
to
here?
think what other.
I mean, you touched upon quite a
You're
few.
stunning on me. We had a fair amount with the last administration on addressing climate. That's not as impactful this time around, but a lot on climate management, resource management.
Alternative energy.
Alternative energies,
our
we've had a lot on that.
Wind
Renewable
turbines
energies,
and
yes,
our
yes.
solar panels and things, I
Had a lot on
imagine,
that.
we have here more than other
Yeah.
states.
Women's entrepreneurship development. We usually have at least one or two groups that come through every year on that. Community engagement, youth enterprise.
The women leadership, that's interesting because across the country,
Yeah.
across the world, we don't
Women
see
in
that.
politics, we've had ones on that.
And now we have more women
and
legislators.
a fair amount on transparency. We had one just came through from Ukraine on transparency in the judicial sector. So we had them meet with the New Mexico Ethics Commission. We're one of the few states that has an ethics commission. So yeah,
We are?
Yeah,
I thought we might be one of the last states to have it. One of the few states
yeah.
to have an ethics commission.
yeah, yeah.
So then they might be setting up an
Right.
ethics commission in their
Right.
country.
And we had a group coming in, Women in Politics. And did you know that Albuquerque is second only to Nevada with the majority women legislators?
Legislators, yep.
53% of our legislators are women, and our city council is majority.
I knew that about our legislature. I mean,
Yeah.
majority of our legislators
Yeah.
this session, since our election, are women.
Yeah.
So now you can pitch that against the across the world too.
Yeah.
Women
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah. So
How
we've done-
wonderful to hear that
Yes.
other countries are interested in that
Yes.
coming here.
Yeah. So there's been lots of subjects, and again, this year it's shifting a bit because, like I said, well, it shifts every time there's a new administration. That's normal, but.
But you work with young leaders across Latin America as well. What's the name of that organization?
That
under-
particular program is a fellowship, also funded by the State Department, was a Young Latin American Initiative. And we had hosted that once before, and then this year we were planning to host it this year, but at this point it's been postponed.
But you had it in the past.
Yes, yeah. And so they come for 4 weeks.
4 weeks as
Yeah,
a fellowship.
As a fellowship, we partner them with a mentoring organization that basically works with them. They usually create their own, in addition to expanding what they're doing now, they usually create a project together and create some kind of initiative that they can continue to work together. In fact, there's one gentleman that hosted a fellow in I think it was 23, or maybe it was 22, that's in Mexico, and he's still doing work with that young fellow, they're still doing business together.
If you were at a dinner party telling people what you do for a living, just telling the kind of the side notes of what's going on, the interesting things, what would you share with them? I mean, you're telling us as the executive director how, again, this is designed to create peace by opening our doors, to sharing the best practices, talking about America, a way of life, Albuquerque, a way of life, helps people learn about our country and can only promote peace and understanding. But tell us about the kind
Personally, again, for me, it's just a way to stay connected to the rest of the world. I think it's really important to stay humble, and it allows me to constantly be reminded of the advantages I have, and that I think I get a feeling right now, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, things are so, things are so bad, and it's like, well, no, actually, we still have a pretty good life, and most things that you want, you can go out and seek them. And so for me, probably it's been rewarding just to keep myself always aware and grateful of what I do have access as a woman, as an American. Yes, we still have many hurdles to overcome, but compared to what other people face every day, we need to be appreciative of that, continue to protect that and support that, but also do our very best to help others in that. And I think I feel like that my work helps do that. And it's very rewarding. And you just meet really interesting people. And you do realize that despite all of our differences, really fundamentally, we all want the same thing. We want to know that we're successful in the world, know that we're bringing about good people into the world, and having influence and impact. And that's, I think, really rewarding about it, that you do realize most of us have the same objectives in life.
But you're able to live that every single day with what you do, and able to see it.
Yeah.
And again, the sharing part of it is what I was a little guarded in our other program, thinking, well, we've created that in our country. We want to be protected. We want to make America strong. Why share it?
Well, I think for me, I've always believed that the most humble people are the most confident people, because it's like what Jesus said. If you know that you're taken care of, you're not going to take, because you know you're taken care of. And I think that's where humility comes from, and that's where power comes from. And sharing only helps us. It does not hurt us. It only helps us. And I wish that people understood that you will always benefit from sharing. You will not benefit from holding for yourself, from taking. There's evidence to show that when you give, it's more joyful for you than to take. Giving gifts is actually more pleasurable for the person who gives it than for the person who gets it. It's just the nature of who we are. That's what they say. Yeah. But it's true. But I have joy. I mean, I make a dinner for them, and it gave me joy. I was happy, It made me feel good. It was nice to meet these people.
No, of course. Yeah. No, I'm thinking about our business secrets and things and innovation.
Well, there's certain things you don't want to share, obviously, or you want to share them with certain protections and limitations. But certainly sharing your home and sharing who you are, sharing your best intentions, are absolutely always positive.
And your desire for peace and peace for around the world. That's amazing. Oh, how cute. So how can people get involved and find out more about Global Ties ABQ?
Okay. So just go to globaltiesabq.org, and you can read a bit about us. And if you want to join us, there's a button there to do that. Membership is a minimum of 60. We also take benefactors larger than that if you're in the position. And then our members automatically become part of our mailing list. We send out a newsletter every month talking about the programs who just came through, who's coming through, what opportunities we have for hosting. So you are always welcome to host people for dinners. I've opened up, which is Ride Along on the Bus. So if there's a topic that you're interested in, or
Ride Along on the Bus. So you have 16 visitors come and
Ride Along on the Bus.
Ride Along on the Bus.
Go to meetings with them. So if there's a particular topic you're interested in, or particular countries, people from a country that you'd like to hang out with, you're welcome to ride with them. Most meetings are open that you can attend to as well.
What's the advantage of, for the visitors to have someone ride along with them, and what's the advantage of the Albuquerquean who wants to do that?
It's just a simple meeting a new person. It's always interesting, especially, our members may have traveled themselves, so maybe they want to see someone, they've been to Saudi Arabia, so they just want to talk about it. Again, it's just a friendship always builds, passes borders. So that's the advantage.
Fantastic. You said there's another global volunteer organization where people can travel, Americans, Albuquerqueans can travel abroad. Right. That's different than
Yeah,
your
yeah.
umbrella program, but something that you've been experiencing
Right,
as well.
yes. So my kind of life mission, is that to try to go somewhere in the developing world every year and volunteer. I haven't been able to do it this last year. The year before, I went to Tanzania and worked with women empowerment group in the Serengeti, and then I'm hoping this year in September to go to Nepal to work with women entrepreneurs in Kathmandu. So I try to go somewhere in the world every year. I missed 1 year just to volunteer for a month or so.
And you can do that through that organization called Global.
Yeah, Global Volunteers are not tied in any way, shape, or form to Global Ties ABQ.
But something that you do because you don't have enough of it with your job as executive director of Global Ties ABQ.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they come to us.
Yes.
And now you take your expertise and go abroad with this other program. So phenomenal.
Right.
We have a minute to share. What would you like to touch upon that I haven't? Laura Palmer, executive director of Global Ties ABQ.
I guess for me, the reason I wanted to be here was, yes, to talk about Global Ties ABQ and what we do, but just really to encourage people to keep an open heart, keep an open mind. That's how, well, the universe and the planet survives through diversity. And sometimes that word is a little bit dangerous right now, but that's variety is the spice of life. Variety is how we exist in the entire planet. And so the more we can keep ourselves open to meeting new people, learning about other cultures, having them learn about us, the more we can advance ourselves.
And what they could do, something as simple, I imagine, is this: say hi, smile to people they see on the street.
Exactly, yeah.
Any other suggestions of what we can do?
Be nice, be kind. Yeah, that's my motto.
Be nice, be kind.
Yeah.
Sometimes tough.
I know, but try everything. I try everything to approach it with, what's the kind thing to do in this situation? Yeah, and you usually won't regret it long term.
Thank you, Laura
Thank
Palmer.
you,
Thank you for
Diane.
sharing your very inspirational to all of us, and it can only help promote world peace and peace in our communities and our neighborhoods, which we need on the streets of Albuquerque. Say hi and smile, and don't honk the horn at anybody. Please don't do that. Thanks for watching the program. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program, email us at info@kchftv.org or call us at 505-345-1991. Join us again for Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater.